It started as a routine endorsement, a simple Adidas sneaker spot, another sports commercial in a long line of promotional tie-ins that fans would scroll past after a few seconds. But this wasn't just any ad. This was Sophie Cunningham's moment, and she wasn't about to let it slip quietly into the shuffle. Within hours of its release, what was meant to be a colorful, upbeat sneaker campaign had erupted into one of the most polarizing moments the WNBA had seen all year. Adidas didn't just launch a shoe. They launched a storm, and at the center of it stood Sophie Cunningham, unapologetic and electric as ever. The ad opens in a flash of neon energy, bright lights, bold color, a confident smirk. Sophie, draped in striking electric pink, takes command of the screen with a presence that feels less like an athlete doing an endorsement and more like a superstar making a declaration. It's playful but pointed, her "I'm busy" line dripping with that signature confidence that fans either love or love to hate. Adidas closes it with one simple message: be unapologetic. For many, that tagline summed up everything Sophie had been embodying lately. But to others, especially fans of the Indiana Fever, it felt like something more. A statement. A warning. Maybe even a shot. Social media didn't just react. It exploded. TikTok was flooded with clips dissecting every frame. Commenters debated the hidden meanings behind her tone, her expression, even the timing of the release. Some saw a symbol of empowerment, a woman seizing her moment in a league that rarely lets individuality shine. Others saw shade, a quiet jab at her team, maybe even the league itself. Overnight, Sophie Cunningham, the player who once flew under the radar, became the name on everyone's lips. But this moment didn't appear out of thin air. It was part of a calculated climb that Sophie had been building all season long. Earlier that same week, she'd appeared on Good Morning America, sparking new conversations about her growing fame. She'd signed endorsement deals with Arby's and Ring. She'd become known for her fiery defense of Caitlin Clark, a move that endeared her to some fans and enraged others. Sophie Cunningham had spent months turning every headline, good or bad, into momentum. And when Adidas came knocking, she turned that momentum into a movement. Adidas knew exactly what they were doing. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Just days before the ad dropped, Sophie had hinted on her podcast that she wanted a bigger contract, one that could finally let her buy a home. That alone might have gone unnoticed. But then she mentioned other cities. New York, Minneapolis, places that weren't Indiana. The clip set off alarms among Fever fans, sparking panic that their rising star might be looking elsewhere. And then came the Adidas commercial. Electric pink. I'm busy. Be unapologetic. It didn't take a conspiracy theorist to see the dots connecting. Was Sophie sending a message? Was she telling the Fever, and the entire WNBA, that she didn't belong to anyone but herself? Or was Adidas simply capitalizing on her newfound popularity, fanning the flames of controversy for clicks and sales? Whatever the truth, the results spoke for themselves. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just part of the conversation anymore. She was the conversation. Sports media outlets couldn't resist the drama. Analysts broke down the campaign like a political ad, studying its tone and timing. Marketing experts called it brilliant, a masterclass in personal branding. Others accused Sophie of letting fame cloud her loyalty, claiming she'd become more influencer than athlete. But regardless of where you stood, one fact was undeniable. Sophie Cunningham had crossed into mainstream recognition, and she'd done it on her own terms. Behind the scenes, the Indiana Fever front office wasn't as thrilled as Adidas. They'd spent months trying to craft a balanced narrative around their team, centered on the explosive popularity of Caitlin Clark and the unity of their young roster. Sophie's viral moment, however, shifted that spotlight, and the power dynamics, overnight. Suddenly, fans weren't just talking about Caitlin. They were talking about Sophie. And that was something the franchise hadn't prepared for. The tension inside the organization began to simmer. Sources suggested that management felt blindsided, unsure how to handle a player whose off-court presence had suddenly eclipsed her on-court role. Sophie's comments about her contract only added fuel to the fire. Her market value was climbing fast, and the Fever were facing a financial squeeze. With Clark and Aaliyah Boston likely due for major extensions soon, could Indiana even afford to give Sophie the deal she was now worth? The silence from the team spoke volumes. Fans, on the other hand, were anything but silent. Hashtags like #PaySophie and #KeepCunningham began trending as supporters flooded comment sections demanding the Fever lock her in long-term. To them, Sophie wasn't just a player, she was a symbol. A fighter who'd earned her fame through grit, charisma, and authenticity. Every time the team hesitated, her leverage grew stronger. Every day they stayed quiet, her brand got louder. But Sophie wasn't waiting around for permission. She'd figured out something that few players in the WNBA ever truly grasp. Controversy can be currency. While others shied away from public drama, she leaned into it. Her fiery on-court moments, her unapologetic interviews, her viral TikToks, all of it was part of a master plan. She was building a persona that transcended basketball. One that lived online, on television, and now, in every sneaker store carrying that electric pink line. Even her critics couldn't deny her marketing genius. The MAGA Barbie, nickname once used as an insult during her time with the Phoenix Mercury, had been flipped into an ironic badge of brand identity. Sophie had transformed criticism into recognition. The noise became her soundtrack, and she was conducting the orchestra. In the modern sports economy, where personality is profit, Sophie was rewriting the rulebook. Still, her meteoric rise didn't come without consequences. Inside the locker room, whispers began to surface. Teammates admired her hustle but questioned whether her fame was becoming a distraction. The Adidas commercial, featuring no other Fever players, rubbed some the wrong way. It was Sophie's show, and they knew it. For a sport that prides itself on teamwork, her individual spotlight felt both inspiring and disruptive. Then there was Caitlin Clark. Together, the two stars embodied opposite sides of the same coin. Caitlin, the polished golden child of women's basketball. Sophie, the daring wild card who said what others wouldn't. Their dynamic fascinated fans. Some called them the perfect pairing, the fire and ice that could redefine the Fever brand. Others warned that too much heat could melt the ice completely. The truth? The balance between their personalities was delicate, and everyone, from fans to sponsors, was watching closely. From a business standpoint, keeping both Sophie and Caitlin made perfect sense. They drew different audiences, and together, they expanded the league's reach like never before. Adidas and Nike couldn't have scripted it better. Caitlin's clean-cut Nike image contrasted perfectly with Sophie's chaotic Adidas energy, creating a rivalry of aesthetics that fans ate up. But behind that synergy lay a dangerous question. Could the Fever afford two stars this big, both in salary and spotlight? In a league that's still fighting for equal pay and national attention, the Sophie Cunningham saga represents more than one player's success. It's a glimpse at the WNBA's future. For decades, the league tried to build stars the traditional way. Quietly, collectively, without controversy. But Sophie proved that the modern audience doesn't crave politeness. It craves personality. She isn't just playing basketball. She's performing it. And in the process, she's teaching the WNBA what real marketing power looks like. That's why this Adidas commercial matters. It's not just an ad, it's a turning point. It's a player showing that control of the narrative no longer belongs to the teams, the agents, or even the league. It belongs to the players who dare to take it. Sophie Cunningham is one of those players. Her story is a blueprint for the new era of women's sports, where individuality reigns, controversy creates engagement, and brand value can outshine statistics. Whether she stays with Indiana or takes her electric pink glow to another city, one thing is certain. Sophie Cunningham has changed the game. The Fever can either embrace her and evolve, or risk watching her redefine success somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, Sophie Cunningham doesn't just play the game. She moves it.